What is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be going over a brand new feature in Fortnite that I believe is having some very negative unintended consequences and is really hurting the game as a whole. So on Wednesday, May 22nd, Fortnite released a brand new update, Update 9.10. As a whole, the update wasn't really anything crazy, mainly due to the fact that it was clearly centered around the Fortnite promotion with Jordan. But it did contain one really interesting new feature named Hotspots. Although I'm sure you guys have a general idea of what these are by now if you've played the game, here are all the important details straight from the patch notes. Every match, randomly selected named locations will be marked in gold text on the map. These locations are hotspots, which represent the presence of loot carriers. Shoot down the loot carriers for guaranteed high-quality weapons. Each game, there will be a minimum of one hotspot with a 25% chance for 2 hotspots and a 5% chance for 3 hotspots. The loot carriers in each hotspot are little floating robot supply drops which, when shot down, drop a weapon of blue or higher rarity along with 2 stacks of ammo. And hotspots will have between 12 and 16 loot carriers depending on the size of the location. So when I first opened the patch notes in the morning and read this specific section, I was actually really excited about it. As someone who enjoys going for high kill games more than anything else, I thought these hotspots would bring more players to certain towns while also making sure those towns had much better loot as a whole. Well, after roughly 2 days playing with these hotspots in the game, I think they've actually done more harm than good. So without further ado, let's get right into why that is. Alright, so the first thing I want to say right off the bat about these new hotspots is that I think the idea of them was good, but the execution of it was poor. I don't think it's a coincidence that Apex Legends basically had this exact same feature in their game. As you're flying in at the beginning of each match, a random town will be selected as what their game calls a hot zone instead of a hot spot. The difference is, in Apex Legends, whatever area is selected as the hot zone will simply have considerably better loot than what a normal town would have. Now, my guess is that Fortnite didn't want to totally copy Apex Legends' system, so they tried to put their own little twist on it. That's why instead of the whole area just having better loot than normal, you need to shoot down those flying robot supply drops to actually get the bonus loot. I don't think that's a huge deal by itself, but what I dislike most about it is the fact that the bonus mini supply drops only drop weapons. If I could shoot these things down and have a decent chance at getting some really helpful items, like any kind of shield or a campfire or a rift to go or a launch pad, that would be awesome and it would make these hotspots a lot more worth it. But when you shoot 3 of these things down and you get a blue infantry rifle, purple grenade launcher, and blue semi-auto sniper, you start to question if it's even worth it to shoot them down at all. So again, I totally understand that Epic wanted to put their own spin on a feature that was clearly inspired by another game, but I think they also made it considerably worse by doing so. But the hot drops being bad isn't even my biggest problem with them. It's more so centered around the negative impact that their existence is having on the rest of Fortnite. Now that these hot drop cities are in the game, people are obviously going to be attracted to them. I mean, the city name is all lit up in gold lettering, you know there's going to be a ton of action there, there's this promise of really cool extra loot, so I totally understand why people would want to consistently land in the hot drop areas. The problem is, way too many people are landing in the hot drop areas. You may be thinking, well, you said a few minutes ago that you're a player that likes to get high kill games, so isn't a ton of people landing in the same town a good thing for you? Well, like I said, I thought the exact same thing at first, but it turns out that there's a big difference between a lot of people landing in a town and too many people landing in a town. Earlier today, I played a match where the hot drop town was Pleasant Park, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say approximately 25 to 30 people landed there. Pleasant Park is one of the largest towns with the most loot in the entire game, but trust me, from personal experience, it doesn't even come close to being able to handle 25 to 30 players. It seemed like each house had 4 to 5 plus people landing on it, about half of the players there were just running around with no gun, and there was no point even trying to listen for footsteps because you heard them in every different direction. And as bad as 25 plus people being in Pleasant were, I think the games where there are maybe 10 to 20 people in much smaller towns with much less loot, like Salty Springs, Shifty Shaft, or Dusty Divot, are even worse. Now, a logical response to all this would be something along the lines of, well, if you don't like hot zones and they're so bad, well then just don't go there. That does make a lot of sense in theory, and for the most part I would recommend avoiding them in the majority of situations. But here's the problem, even if you don't ever land in a hot zone, you'll be negatively affected by them in a lot of the matches you play, and I can prove it. Let me show you guys 3 screenshots from games where the hot zone ended up being popular landing towns. All of these screenshots were taken right before the first zone started closing in, which happens approximately 4 minutes into a match. In this first screenshot, the hot zone was Dusty Divot, and 4 minutes into the game, 32 out of 100 players are left alive. Think that's bad? In this second screenshot, it was a double hot zone of Salty Springs and Lonely Lodge, and 4 minutes into this game, 29 out of 100 players are left. And here is by far the worst of all. In this game, the hot zone town was Salty Springs alone, and 4 minutes into the game, only 24 out of 100 players are left alive. Because of these hotspots, there's going to be so much more early game fighting compared to before they were in the game. Just think about it like this. In a regular game, how many players would normally land in Salty Springs? Maybe 4 or 5 on average? Well, when Salty Springs is the hotspot, that number is probably going to be much closer to around 15 or so. So that's an extra 10 to 12 deaths off spawn that wouldn't normally happen in a game. And since so many players are running around without guns because that town can't support 15 players, those extra deaths are also happening much quicker than normal. You don't need to be a Fortnite expert to understand why this is such a big problem. An average Fortnite game lasts somewhere around 15 to 20 minutes in total. The game, plain and simple, isn't designed for 70 to 75% of players to die in the first 20 to 25% of the game. As I'm sure you guys know, the Fortnite map is obviously incredibly large. Therefore, when there's only 25 to 30 people left and the storm hasn't even started closing in yet, the whole middle part of that game is going to be a really miserable experience as you desperately try to find players to fight. I personally believe that the perfect number of players left as that first zone starts closing in is somewhere in the 45 to 50 range. A little bit lower, maybe 40 is still alright, but anything lower than that, or maybe the upper 30s, is a problem, plain and simple. Something I find really funny about this is that when Epic removed siphon settings from the game a few months ago, they said the main reason they did it was because it promoted quote-unquote unhealthy aggression. These hotspots are literally the definition of something that promotes unhealthy aggression. But despite all the negative things I've said, I want to make it clear that this definitely isn't going to be a major problem in every game you play. If the hotspot ends up being in a place like Lucky Landing or Sunny Steps, it probably won't be all that bad. And I'm guessing that as time goes on, players will start to realize that the extra loot from the hotspots simply isn't worth it, and they'll become a little less overpopulated. At least that's what I'm hoping for. But as it stands right now, these hotspots are having a lot of negative effects that I don't think Epic actually expected. Especially when the hot zone is a town that's normally a really popular landing spot. I applaud them for trying something new that I do think was a good idea in theory, but I just don't think it worked out in the end. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on the new hotspots in Fortnite? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you have any crazy stories about a ton of people landing in a hotspot? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.